Steve's here again. Steve's back from the beach. You are in your house this time,
I am
right?
back in the official Triple B studio.
Triple B studio?
Triple B. We've got Bentley, Butler, and Bull. The Triple B studio.
I hate it so much.
Okay, never mind.
No, I like it. It's good. It's good. We'll work on it.
Sorry.
Glad to see you're here with us. This is the Stuff Summer Says podcast with
Steve.
The Triple B broadcasting booth. So that would be like the five, the quad, or the penta.
If we could find Triple B Auto Wreckers or somebody to be sponsors or something, right? Like Triple B Auto Salad, Triple B Ice Cream. I don't know. Is there something with Triple B's? I'll Google while we're talking.
Maybe a credit rating. I forget.
Oh, the Better Business Bureau. There we go.
Oh, there we go. The Better Business.
The preferred podcast of the Better Business Bureau. There you go.
Yes, exactly. Oh God, this show's already off the rails. We're gonna bring it back on the rails because we are joined by not one but two guests this time, for a very specific reason. The new PA announcers of Beaver Stadium are joining us, Rodney Martin and Joe Putnam, two of the nicest people on the planet, two of the prettiest voices I know. Truly, nothing gets me more pumped up than a Rodney We Are call. I discussed that with him briefly on our chat. After that conversation, we do have some media day recapping to do, and then I don't know if you heard, Steve, there was a little bit of realignment news. We'll probably get to that. In the
last 5 minutes, you mean?
Actually, there was within the last 5 minutes, and that's not a joke. Yeah, go ahead and take a listen to our interview with Rodney and Joe. Thank you to them for joining, and we'll be back after this. Steve, I think this is a record, a historic episode of the podcast. For the first time ever, we are joined by not one, but two guests, and there's a reason for that. I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. This is great.
I'm very excited. We have Joe Putnam from the State College Spikes and Penn State women's basketball, and Rodney Martin, who is rocking his shorter hair for the summer, he says, but also one of the voices. I guess the voice of Pagula Ice Arena would be the correct way to say that, because we don't want to offend our dear friend Brian Tripp, who is also a voice of Penn State hockey, so to speak. Guys, how are you?
Doing well. How are y'all doing?
Doing very well, very well. September 2nd cannot come soon enough for Rodney and I.
Well, that is exactly why you guys are here. We are here to discuss kind of the big news, at least in the Penn State sports media world, in my opinion. You two will be taking over the PA addressing roles. And I think we will start with the obvious question of how the hell is this going to work?
We'll tell you on September 3rd. How's that?
Okay,
perfect. Well played.
Well, with Rodney and myself, we are teaming up. I was going to joke that we're going to thumb wrestle 2 out of 3 falls for it, but no, we'll be alternating throughout the games. You'll hear me primarily pregame, halftime, postgame, and sort of the in-between moments, and you'll hear Rodney primarily on game action, filling Beaver Stadium as he does at Pagula Ice Arena, at Medler Field, at Lebrano Park, and so many other places here at Penn State.
Rodney, let's start there. You don't necessarily have the background that Joe has, so to speak, but what was it like? What is the process like for you to kind of get this gig? And kind of how did you become a PA announcer? Let's start there. I know the story, but how did you become a PA announcer? Let's go back in time.
Right. So, well, we had to go back even further, even before I got here. My older brother, I'm the youngest of 4. So my oldest brother, he's big time into radio, production, program, and all that. And I kind of had an interest, and I wanted to be like my big brother. And then the one piece of advice that he gave me was, he goes, Rodney, if you ever get into radio, I'll kill you. So, but I still wanted to do the broadcasting and production thing. So that's coming fast forward to when I first got to Penn State. I went to paid for my first club hockey game, and then I got involved in hockey management the very next day, and started doing, started with like kind of the menial stuff, and then I eventually worked up to being like the DJ and statistician. And then the gentleman who had been announcing graduated, so we needed a new announcer. Well, this one guy stepped in. He says, "I want to do it." Well, he did the blue-white game, the inter-squad scrimmage to start the season, and the coach at the time, Coach Joe Batista, said, "Oh, he wasn't. He kind of fumbled his words and wasn't very articulate and projecting." He said, "We need somebody else in there." I say, "Oh, well, okay, I'll give it a shot." And 24 years later, here I am. So,
And you have been the voice of Pagula, as I said, pretty much, no, not even pretty much, since day one. Joe, for you have been, involved with the Lady Lions primarily. I think that is the most public facing role, unless you go to Spikes games, that a lot of people know you for. But what is it about this opportunity that kind of got you excited, and why branch out a little bit, I guess, so to speak?
Well, there's really, there's so many great roles within Penn State athletics, so many great sports, so many championships have been won, but there's really only one role where you're part of the greatest show in college football. There's only one role where you are there at Beaver Stadium with 108,000 people, and that's this one. And, I going through the process and then learning that I would share it with Rodney was a thrill for me, because there's no one I'd rather be teamed up with than Rodney Martin for this. It really is a special thing, I think, for Happy Valley, but also, folks know Penn State football not only nationwide but worldwide, and there's a lot of attention to it. And so really this is a unique position that only a very few can have. And for Rodney and I to be able to do this, to be one of the voices, or two of the voices among the 108,000, but two important voices that are heard above the din more often than not, then it's a very special opportunity. We get the chance to be part of some special moments at Beaver Stadium. We get the chance to just share that experience with the fans and play our own small part in the atmosphere of the place, and keeping fans who are there every football Saturday, on the edge of their seats, entertained, excited, hopeful, whatever the situation calls for there. So I think that Rodney and I are both very excited for that opportunity, and also just the fact that now we're part of that atmosphere that can be a help to a Penn State football team. I mean, you witness the whiteouts, you witness the Michigan having to call timeout on the very first play of the game, and being, not that the announcers generally play a role, but being part of cultivating that atmosphere, I think is very special, and something that I know I'm looking forward to. I know Rodney's looking forward to, and that's really how I can sum it all up, is just special. That's what this is for both of us.
Most casual fans probably found out 2 weeks or so ago when Ben Jones writes the story and breaks the story. Obviously, you guys knew beforehand. How far before that did you know? And then for each of you, who did you tell first?
We definitely knew ahead of time. For me, actually, the first people that I told, because they were in the room when I received the call, were Scott Walker and Dan Petrozola over here at the Spikes. I told my mom. My mom said, "If you hear anything, I got to be the first one." And I got to admit to Mom, sorry, you weren't number one, but you were very close to the top of the list. But I did tell her that, and I think she's okay with it, but she's very proud. But everybody over here at the Spikes has been nothing but supportive about it. They're very excited. In some cases, they might be more excited than I am, just to be able to, say that, hey, there's in somebody we know there, but not just that, but then to hear it's both me and Rodney who are both here at the Spikes. I think that really is exciting for Scott, for Dan, for Matt Neary, for Rob DeLuca, for everybody over here, to know that the public address voice of Spikes games, and one of the other prominent voices of Spikes games, and faces in some cases for Spikes games, will be over at the microphones at Beaver Stadium.
Yeah, I had almost an identical situation. I came out of my office and I had a text, and they said, "Oh, we're calling you about, I want to call you about football." And I had told the few people in my close office ahead of time that I was being considered. And then they keep asking, when are you going to hear, when are you going to hear? And then I got on the call and they're walking out to go get coffee. And I just kind of tap them on the shoulder and I was like, hey, thumbs up. Yeah, I got the job. And so, and then again, Joe was saying with his mom wanted to be the first one to know. My wife wanted to be the first one to know. And I had said, sorry, honey, you know, Dennis and Ed heard first. So I apologize. It's only because they were there when I got the call. So yeah, this process, I can't even remember how long it's been, because the summer's been such a blur, especially since we found out it. And I mean, I'll echo Joe's sentiments. Like I said, I was kind of like here, like this is when I was nervous here, maybe 50%, and excited here 50%. But now I'm kind of getting more like, okay, I'm getting a lot more excited than nervous, especially since we've been having our weekly meetings with Guido and Dana Kraus to go over kind of what he envisions, how we want to have this, how we want to have the whole show run. But yeah, I'm getting more excited. And we joked with Dana today on the call. It's like all three of us, so Guido, myself, and Joe, we're saying like, yeah, we're ready for September 2nd. I said, I'm almost there. I'll get there soon. And Dana's like, yeah, you're the only ones. We are so not ready for September 2nd.
There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do.
More, obviously, like you said, it is the biggest show on campus. It is one of the biggest shows in the country, and there is so much to go into it. I can't even put my mind around it. So yeah, just because we're ready, there's a lot more to do. So
What was the process like? Did you try out? Did you do mic checks at the stadium? What did it look like for you guys?
So initially, I mean, they came back and they said, yeah, we're going to go with a 2-announcer system. I think that was the first thing. And I was asked to, and I don't know if this, I think it's pretty similar for Joe too. I was asked to submit an audition tape. They're saying like, take a game from last year and, you know, submit a audition tape of how you would call the game. Like, how would you do down and distance? And then that went through several iterations. Actually 3 different auditions that I did. And then finally, when we kind of got there for a while, it was Joe and I going up against each other. We were going for the same job and then, you know, we all know what happened this summer, and it just happened to be that Joe and I, but like, I think I went in for my mic check in the stadium. They wanted to hear how I sounded. And as I'm leaving, I hear Mr. Putnam over the PA. I'm like, oh man, you sound great. I said, let's do this. Right.
Oh yeah. I think Rodney, it's the same for you. That's how I found out that you were in the process, because I heard you when I was coming into the stadium, and then you heard me when you were leaving the stadium. And yeah, we texted and definitely wanted to wish each other the best of luck. And thankfully, it's panned out to where we both can be a part of this. So, but we definitely, yeah, all the above, same as Rodney. Auditions recorded and then live in the stadium, and then, you know, moving forward from there, we both got the call. So it was, I don't want to say it was a quick process, because, you know, to us, it felt like forever. But at the same time, I think, you know, we were both anxiously awaiting the conclusion. And thankfully, we both got good news, and we're both primed up. Like Rodney said, we've been meeting up weekly with Guido D'Elia and Dana Kraus, and going over how we'll fit into the show this year. And we're looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of great things.
Interesting. One interesting side note, I should say, it's like, I initially got the word about, you know, they want to do this, but I didn't find out. I had missed, I don't want to like bash any cell phone provider, but I had actually missed like 2 voicemails from Guido, and he was almost ready to move on. Say like, I don't know that Rodney really wants this. I did not get his voicemails. And then finally Dana said, have you been getting voicemails from Guido? I'm like, no. She's like, you really need to call him. So I was like, okay.
That's awesome. My question is for Rodney, I think primarily. Joe, most of your stuff will be, as I understand it, relatively scripted. You've got pregame, which is pretty standard, halftime pretty standard, ad reads pretty standards. Rodney, your stuff won't probably be scripted for the most part if you're doing down and distance. Number one, are you a football guy? And don't, you know, especially now. And then secondly, how is that different from hockey? Because you're going to have to go quick as opposed to hockey, where it's you can have a few seconds to collect the information, write it down. I know you've got a little form sheet that sometimes you fill out, things like that. So how will this be different kind of from hockey, I guess, primarily?
Well, right now I'm definitely a football guy. I mean, even though I'm wearing hockey swag, I'm definitely a football guy. I never thought that I would have this opportunity to do it. So maybe maybe I gave off that, you know, that vibe that I wasn't, but I'm absolutely a football guy. So if I'm not at Pagula, I'm always tuning in. But as far as, yeah, the way it goes, I mean, obviously it is a lot quicker. So we will have, and just like they had in previous years, you have spotters, right? So one for offense, one for defense. Starting to learn the name, you know, try to memorize the names and numbers. I mean, I have a flashcard app on my phone that has the number, and then on the other side, the pronunciation. So hopefully it'll become just like second nature, you know, it'll be like, okay, boom and boom, and this is, and then get the proper pronunciation. But it's going to mainly fall on the spotters helping me out. It's like, okay, who was that? I couldn't quite see that number. But yeah, and even with hockey, I mean, we do have a pretty quick turnaround. John Hanna's amazing. He relays that information up to us for the men's games. We do goals, assists pretty quickly. But yeah, you're right. It's much more instantaneous at football. So, like I said, we're going to have to see how that's still the part of that nervous part of it. I just want to make sure that I don't miss something on that first day, because 6,000 in Pagula, 108,000 in Beaver Stadium. You know, it's a small difference, but.
Well, in terms of those numbers of people, I guess I'm curious because you guys are both new to this year and the process, right? With Dana and Guido, and people talk about the show. And I think the casual fan, not that they're listening to this, but maybe they'll tune, you know, don't appreciate how much of a plan there is and how much what's supposed to happen and how they hope it to happen. I'm curious, seeing it for the first time as you do, what should people's expectations be of, I don't know if perfection is the right word, or for it to move smoothly, right? Because the plan is for that stuff to happen, but life happens while that's happening too. And you're trying to get this read in and know you're going to acknowledge this thing for the next event that's coming. So as you see all that's into it and have experienced it before as a fan, perhaps, what should people's expectations be for that show in terms of smoothness and run? Like, what are you seeing and what do you think people should expect from that?
Well, you know, the first game, nighttime, September 2nd, West Virginia, primetime, NBC. You know, we're coming out with our best, you know,
Right.
and I think that this two announcers setup, I think, will help make it seamless, or at least as seamless as it can be, because I'll be focused on one part of the action while Rodney's going, and then Rodney will be focused on another part of the action while I'm going. So it enables us to both, you know, kind of focus on the task at hand and get everything teed up to where it needs to be. And I think the onus is on, you know, everybody within marketing, within production, to be at the top of their game right from the get-go, because that stadium is going to be filled up. We're giving the best show, the greatest show in college football. We're making this the most intimidating atmosphere to play in, like it was named as at Big Ten Media Days. So with all that, you know, the goal is to put that together and have it all go, you know, right as it's supposed to go all the way through, and have that, maybe not the perfect game, but certainly one that's extremely memorable, and that it lives up to being the greatest show in college football.
I mean, and like I mentioned earlier, we've been having, you know, like weekly tag ups to try and go over, you know, we would actually watch game film. It's like, okay, how would we call this? And so, I mean, but it's just like practice. You only do so many reps in practice. There's nothing like, you know, game reps, right? So, I mean, and Joe said, we're going to, you know, give it our best. And I think we got a pretty good handle on how the show's going to run. We still have, you know, a couple weeks left, and we have, you know, we'll have dry runs that I think that week, the week of the game, we'll be there Wednesday, we'll be there Friday. So just making sure that if there's any other kinks that need to get worked out, we'll be all set. I mean, heck, they're still tearing down walls in the stadium to get us all together in one booth.
Neither one of you has a finger on the lion's roar. Or is that somebody else?
Oh, that's totally someone else.
Okay. Just making sure.
That is somebody else, but I think we know who it's going to be. I think it's somebody familiar to both of us. So
Yes.
Rodney, I want to ask you specifically because I think people really associate you with so much with Penn State hockey. You are not giving up Penn State hockey. That is still part of your primary action. This is just something else, correct?
That is absolutely part of my yes.
Thank God.
Hockey. I will not be giving up wrestling. You know, I joke around. I said if they would have made me quit that, if they would have said no, you have to give that up, I would have to really take pause. No matter how great this job is, I mean, Pagula is just, it's a drug for me. I could be having the worst day, but if I come in there and we do the starting lineups, we get the roar zone gets going. And even now, I'm just getting like, chill bumps thinking about it. So, still doing hockey.
Okay, good. Joe, for you two, you guys work together at the Spikes games. Do you think that chemistry is going to translate over across the street?
absolutely, 110%. Rodney and I, and it's not just when we're on the microphones; it's off microphones. Just being up here in the press box, night in, night out. I think that we kind of know where we are, where we're at, and with the folks like Dana and Rebecca Plesha up and upstairs working with us as well. I think it's going to be a finely tuned machine, and I think being over here at the Spikes too, we're coming at it from a show perspective as well. At the Spikes, we want to give everybody fun, affordable family entertainment every single night, give them memories to last a lifetime, and it's a little bit different for Penn State football. There's only one game a week, and it's only on Saturdays, and there's only 7 of them. But as 108,000 people, as opposed to 3, 4, 5, 6,000 people at a Spikes game. But at the same time, I think that working together over here, we kind of know, okay, in terms of getting ready for this event, for this game, for this read, whatever it may be, we kind of have that chemistry already in place.
That's good.
Rodney, you mentioned your brother in radio, and Joe, broadcasting has always going to be the career, my sense is, and that was the school was. I'm curious for both of you, who were the influences or who are the announcing voices in your head that growing up you thought that sounds like someday maybe, who are those people for you guys?
Well, I don't know if I should admit this, but I am a Flyers fan. So Lou Nolan has been, I've loved listening to him. And the fact that he's been doing it for 50 years, it's just like, this finds me, it just blows my mind. But I joke with Joe and with John Foreman, who was the producer at the Spikes. It's like, I can't just sit and enjoy a game. Like we went down to Winston-Salem. I caught a dash, we went and saw the Winston-Salem Dash High A for the Chicago White Sox. I'm watching the game, but I'm also like, well, what are they producing? What's their video board? How's their announcer sound? So you get the bug, and I can never just sit and relax. I'm always listening for influences. It's like, oh, hey, that sounds really cool. Can I incorporate that? So yeah, it's an ongoing thing. But I would say Lou Noel, the guy is amazing at what he does. So.
My influences all obviously are more from a broadcasting perspective. But some folks, I mean, Bob Wallace was the PA announcer at Bellefonte Area High School when I was growing up, and listening to him, I thought that's what a public address announcer should be. And then coming here, there's so many great voices that have been on here throughout the years. But then from another perspective, as a PA announcer is sort of the host, so to speak. Actually, I have some interesting influences like Howard Finkel, from WWE for so many decades, or somebody like Roddy on The Price is Right. You're trying to cultivate and deliver information as succinctly and as accurately as possible, but at the same time, you're trying to cultivate a great atmosphere wherever you're at, or at least that's my philosophy. So, you throw all those together in a blender, and a little bit of me as well, and that's what spits out.
Nice.
Go Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
This is the smallest town in America. I mean, State College. I mean, for somebody who's been around this place for 35 years, just myself, and does not have the connections you have, but am interested in this industry, I'm just curious, have you heard from your predecessor at all? Like after it? Like, I mean, this was the biggest news of football in the offseason. I'm just curious if you've heard anything. Like, we reached out to say, hey, do you want to talk with us? And nobody wants to talk with us except you guys. So thank you very much. But I'm curious if you guys have heard at all from Dean in any way, shape, or form. And I'm sorry, I'm just curious.
No, I had posted the Ben's article on Facebook, and he did reach out to me. And I mean, even prior to that, when we had the NCAA men's gymnastics here, the championships, and it was a three-headed monster on the mic. It was Dean, myself, and Jeff Brown. And Dean and I got to talk on Thursday. The Thursday of that was kind of like the warm-up day for them, and I went up there just to kind of get the sense of it. And he had talked to me about, well, you know, they're considering, you know, making a change. We're going to do. I was like, yeah, and I told him, I said, I'm auditioning. And he was saying, oh, I hope you get it. He goes, I'm glad they're considering you. But after all this happened, I mean, he still reached out and said congratulations on my post. So
That's cool.
I thought that was very big of them to do.
Yeah, that's cool of him. I think the last thing that I want to ask about is Rodney. For me, the main thing that I associate you with is, outside of your luscious hair, of course, is your trademark "We Are," and I think that personal touch really kind of shines through for you at Pegula. For both of you guys, number one, Rodney, directly, are you going to bring the "We Are" around the corner, I guess, so to speak? And then number two, how do you apply your personal touches of you know, to this gig? Because that is also part of the energy that comes with it.
I don't know that. I mean, if it fits, if it fits in the scenario, 108,000 people, it's going to be kind of hard to hear the announcer try to initiate a "We Are." So I'm not sure that's going to happen. But as far as like personal touches go, I mean, it's basically going to be a lot more with the how you say, you know, third down. And I know Dean had a way of doing it. The certain inflection on the names, he said, so that'll come with familiarity. You know, like that was in Pegula, one of my, you know, Luke Yuha, right? I mean, that's a name that just calls out to be just like, you stretch it out and it's just, yeah. So I kind of, that's kind of like the fun, having fun and playing with the name. So absolutely, that's how I would put my style on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just moment to moment, you know, whatever the moment calls for. And I think between Rodney and I, we have enough experience. We'll call back to certain things that we've done over the years, but we're not going to be necessarily tied to them. It's just whatever serves the moment best.
Awesome. Well, this has been a wonderful discussion. Congratulations on making Stuff Summers Says history by joining us for our first dual interview.
Get that there on the resume. Stuff
yes.
Summer Says history.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, that'll go right next to the fact that Cale Sanderson gave me a thumbs up one time. That's
oh my God, that should be, yeah. That's
we are going to use that on our promotional material. We are equal with the Cale Sanderson thumbs up.
Yeah.
We do also, by the way, we have to get our tag team names together. We were discussing it. I said we'd be the best team since the Mega Powers, but we still have yet to find what our tag team name is. So we are open to suggestions.
Okay, we will solicit some for you.
Yeah, I'm a wrestling fan, but Joe's got me totally faded on that. Don't even get him started.
The only one that doesn't get this is Darian. Like Darian's not.
I'm like a little wrestling guy.
I'm sitting here thinking of Thunder and something else, or like the Voices of God. Like I'm coming up with stuff, and Darian's like, "Oh my God, we're talking wrestling, right?" So this is great.
Yes.
Merchants of Vocals was something I kind of was like, that sounds.
That is a good one.
I like that one.
That is a good one. I figured since we were a tag team, we had to have Express in our name, but we're still working on it.
Guys, this was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, this was great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah, really. Thank you very much. And we're looking forward to it. Very excited about, being over at Beaver Stadium, 108,000 people, the greatest show in college football. And being there for 7 fall Saturdays this year.
Steve, let me say, thank God that Rodney is still going to be the voice of Pagula Ice Arena, because that is Rodney. I'm very excited.
Were
to
you
see
worried,
Rodney.
really?
Well, you never know. I mean, he's moving up in the world. Clearly, if he's getting the Beaver Stadium gig.
But it's a short commute from one job to the other. So
That's true. It's true. It's right across the street. I am very interested to see how they bring their own personalities to Saturday afternoons inside Beaver Stadium. That to me is the most interesting aspect of them taking over, because they have little things that they do, whether you're at listening to the Spikes game or at a Spikes game, or with Rodney at a hockey game for sure. You'll notice them, maybe if you don't necessarily think about them, but if you just think about them for a second, you would notice them. And to me, that is why I'm so excited about them joining at Beaver Stadium.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I thought it was interesting when you heard it, right? Like, we're just trying to do something. But I think if they split up the duties, I think one of the things that I struggled with at Beaver Stadium before was some of the reads were canned ahead of time, like some of those promotional, and the mic levels were then off, right? And it just sounded bad because the live mic was different from the recorded stuff. So if they find a way to avoid that, I think that makes the game day presentation probably 20% better to start with. And I think Joe will be fun, like in the roles that he's got there. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was, but I think I am after talking to him.
No, I really am excited for them. And, as I mentioned, two very deserving gentlemen. Very, very thankful that they were able to join us on the podcast. All right, Steve, let's move on. Let's also talk about some football stuff. Media Day was Sunday. I was seeing Barbie. Well, was in the process of going to see Barbie. And so I caught up today, which is Monday. And I have to say that it didn't seem like there was a lot to catch up on. I didn't think that there was a lot coming out of it. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's not a good thing. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting. Really, the main news is that Smith Vilbert will be out for the season, the defensive end. But at a position that Penn State is pretty strong in with, Deni Dennis Sutton, Adisa Isaac, and Chop Robinson. You've got Amin Vanover in there. So that's exciting to me. Unfortunate for Smith Vilbert, though. The main thing that you kind of kept hearing, and I watched watched the Franklin interview, press conference. I watched the Manny Diaz and Mike Yursich press conferences as well, was the depth that this team has, which is kind of a continuum over from what Big Ten Media Days was all about. That is helping me as a Penn State fan sleep better at night. I think that is, I don't think they are blowing smoke, up our asses on this one. I think it is really the staple of this team and why James Franklin has recruited the way he has for the last however many seasons.
Yeah, it's the result of them recruiting how they have the past couple of seasons, right? They do have depth, whatever 3 deep, and then he backed it off. Okay, maybe 2.5 deep at spots, but that's still better than they've been before. Penn State should always out talent people to win 7 or 8 games. I mean, I think they're always going to out talent people to win 9 games. They're paying Coach Franklin to win 3 games a year. They're paying him to win Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State. And that's the same this year going into it. I think there's reason to be optimistic that can happen this year in maybe all those instances. So yeah, and there wasn't a lot of news. When I look at the stuff, I kind of look and see where people are zigging and zagging to try to find something that's readable or different, right? And there wasn't a lot. I mean, Mark Woganrich did a thing about the visit to the Patriots, and I'm not sure if that came out of Media Day or if it was something he had been holding. And as I saw it in my timeline, I was just seeing it. That was interesting because then you can just say to the players, the coaches, hey, we're trying to better ourselves. What are you doing? But yeah, I think no news out of Media Day is good news for them. I mean, no crazy news.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure that I didn't see anything, anybody asking about majors or anything like that on my list of 5 questions. So, I'm comfortable that I'm in the clubhouse with questions not asked.
Yeah, a little upset there, Steve. A little upset there.
Well,
I think the other big thing was that apparently Jackson Smolik is pretty good as well, which again goes back to the depth thing. But yeah, no news is good news. I think the main thing that I took away from the press conferences is how comfortable the coordinators are at Penn State now. Like you can really tell that they're hitting their groove and feel a lot more comfortable in the system. They don't have to necessarily prove that what they're worth as much, and now they can kind of worry about X's and O's. So that was interesting to me. I did think the thing about both the retreats that Franklin is doing, which is, I guess he's done that for the past couple of seasons, as well as the Patriots thing was interesting. I'm now just thinking about this as we talk here, but you know who else is at Patriots camp? Well, there's 3 people at Patriots camp, but I'm really thinking of one of them, which is Bill O'Brien. Would love to be a fly on that wall, because Franklin and Bill O'Brien worked together, I believe, way back in the day.
Maryland,
Maryland. But would have loved to just hear that conversation, because I'm sure that was interesting. And then I think the funny part of that bit of the press conference was, of course, then Bill Belichick had James Franklin speak to that team at practice, and I don't know, that would throw me for a loop. Like, it doesn't seem like there's much that throws James Franklin for a loop, but he even admitted that one kind of threw him by surprise.
Yeah, what's he going to say? I wouldn't want to hear the fly. I wouldn't want to hear the fly on the wall interaction. I'd like to hear the voices in the respective heads when the conversation was happening.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like that would have been the one, like, just, because they might say one thing, but they're probably thinking something else. Maybe not, but I would just love to hear it.
I feel like with Bill O'Brien, it's like, we all knew Bill was going to go back to the NFL. So like, I think he's like, must suck to be you. And James Franklin's probably like, must suck to be you to work for Bill Belichick because of what a hard ass he can be. So,
And the coordinator thing, I just, to the coordinators, I think they're more comfortable. And this is totally overthinking it and whatever else, overthink Monday or overreaction Monday. Because I think Coach Franklin's more comfortable. I think college football in the past 5 years has come to him in a way that's been very beneficial to him. Like it's gone, because the shot on him the first couple of years, I'm not an X's and O's guys, manages a program, right? I mean, that would just be the thing, and it ticked him off a couple of times, and he reacted at news conferences. But it's now true more than ever that you're managing an industry and a business, and you need to know the X's and O's. And I'm not belittling that, but his talent, it seems like, and expertise in where he wants to be is managing the industry, managing his company. And that has been a more necessary skill the past few seasons than it was the first couple of years he was coaching college football. So I think the game has come to him some. He's more comfortable in that role, and he's letting the people do their jobs, maybe more now than he ever did before.
Well, and I think that came through for me. The clear sign of that for me was the Manny Diaz hire, right? Because this is somebody else that has sat in that position. And it wasn't like they were sitting at that position at Little Sisters of the Poor. This was at Miami. This is, really one of the top, well, maybe not one of the top tier programs right now, but on paper, powerhouse, blue blood, you could put them in that conversation for sure. And to me, that was okay. Like, I know what I'm good at. I know what he is good at. Let's make that work together. And I think James Franklin is always going to be a strong recruiter. Manny Diaz is always going to be a strong X's and O's guy. And I think you marry that with somebody then, and you get that going. And then you've got Mike Yursich, who, again, strong X's and O's guy. It starts to work well. And I think you're starting to see some of those tailwinds kind of pushing the ship along for me. I think the only other interesting thing that I caught is James Franklin doesn't like his dogs, apparently. So if anybody, what I want to find out is what types of dogs does James Franklin have, and what type of dog do the kids want? Did the kids want? And wonder what that conversation was like. Hey, Dad, we would like a dog. Like that was to me, and not just one dog, but 2 dogs. There are apparently 2 dogs. Doesn't like the second dog. Do you think it was a shot?
Got to be a small dog.
I think it's got to be a small dog. I think you have a big dog. We have 2 smaller dogs.
But you have smaller, low maintenance dogs, right? There's a higher.
No, they are not low maintenance. They are crackheads.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, I think that is what James Franklin is experiencing if he has small dogs. Because I think he's got small dogs. Maybe my other conspiracy theory is it was a veiled shot at Georgia. It's like a Taylor Swift Easter egg where it's like just talking about bulldogs and dogs.
Boy, are you hopeful?
Because he said something about 2 dogs, which means 2 national championships.
They won twice in a row. Oh, way to go!
Yeah. See,
woo.
Let me spin my conspiracy.
We got all the jewels for that thing yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm good. All right. anything else you want to discuss there? No,
No, clearly that discussion has gone to the dogs. So let's move on.
that was terrible. I hate it. This is the
You're
weirdest
just sorry you
episode.
opened it up for that.
Oh, my God, this is the weirdest episode. Okay. Speaking of dogs
There you
and
go.
ducks, Big Ten got a little bigger. Apparently people in the
Nice.
Pac-12 didn't like the media deal that they were put in front of them, which sounds like an Apple streaming TV deal. So let's start there. Are you surprised that this happened, Steve, or was this just delaying the inevitable, now speeding up the inevitable?
It was delaying the inevitable, now speeding up the inevitable. It
That's
should have been, the two LA schools were not enough ever. They were not the right, they weren't Big Ten school. I mean, they were schools for the media markets. They are not college football schools. Look, I'd rather go to Seattle. I'd rather go to Oregon. Like, those are college football trips. Those are going to be fun. I mean, I can't wait to see when they're on the schedule, because those are going to be trips. I don't know that anything would encourage me to go to LA to see a college football game, other than the bowl game that I've already seen there. So no, this was inevitable. This is also the fault of, no, this isn't the fault of, this is proof that folks on the West Coast don't watch sports, right? Like, LA may be a good media market for the Big Ten, but people aren't watching those games. No, that's why their media deal wasn't worth anything. Like, the linear networks knew nobody's going to watch these games. Who's going to watch Washington and Wazoo? Like, not to belittle them, but they're not going to get the numbers that Ohio State and Michigan are going to get. So their deal wasn't worth it for what they were getting, or they were getting what they were worth. They're worth more to the Big Ten, and it's good for them. And they probably need, I can't, get big enough to have two divisions, and the Big Ten goes back to East and West. It's still tough on Penn State, but no, I think this is very good for the Big Ten. I think it's good for fans. I know you think otherwise. It's places I want to go. It's new places to see. But it's all TV money, right? I mean, it's not the fans aren't driving it. It's the TV networks getting content.
Yeah, I am not in my head, it makes more sense that it's Oregon and Washington joined the Big Ten, just from the aspect of their athletics and / the schools, because I think there is some value to being a Big Ten school in terms of the degree that you hold. But I think I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, because it is going to end up hurting people like me and you that enjoy going to games. Like, and I think everybody's like, well, now you get Washington and playing Penn State, or Washington playing Ohio State, or you get the couple good matchups that you kind of get out of this. But what about Washington and Rutgers? Like, who's going to be watching that? Or Oregon and Rutgers at 10:30 at night? Like, who is going to be turning that on? And to me, from the football standpoint, sure, like, you can live with it. But then once you expand out to the other Olympic sports, basketball, baseball, really any of the main Olympic sports that you might tune into, volleyball, although volleyball, it probably does help because it makes that conference the strongest, best conference in the country. But I feel for those athletes that are now going to have to take a bus to Harrisburg, then take the Harrisburg to wherever flight all the way out to Seattle, or all the way out to Oregon. And I think also, you said you will make a trip. Do you think you'll make the trip twice? Like I don't think we will make the trip twice. We will go once and that's it, because
once each place. Right. Yeah. Once each place.
And I wonder, I don't have the Alumni Association list on my screen or anything like that, but I would be interested to hear from somebody in the alumni department of, here's how many Penn Staters live in here, and how many of those we think will actually go to the game.
Yeah, but your ticket allotment on a road game is what, 2,500 tickets, maybe 5,000?
Yeah, but I've been to 100 and some Penn State football games in the last decade. And of those away games, so that maybe call it 50 games, I've bought through the university once, maybe twice. Like, I think most people go off StubHub. So I don't know.
I think they'll sell their first trips out there easily.
Sure.
It'll be the second ones, and we'll see.
Yeah.
And then in the other sports, I do feel for them. Although, and then at the same time, I feel there's a solution that the egos of those people in those sports will not allow them to have happen, right? So before you and before me even, women's sports had these things like they would, and it was when women's sports weren't as legitimate, they had like play days, right? 4 schools would go to Maryland and play like 3 games at a time, right? Like you'd all go to one location to limit the travel, I see your face, right? And those other sports are going to say, well, but that would be a solution. Hey, we all come to Nebraska and we play a round robin of series games over the weekend. Everybody gets 2 or 3 games in the sports that allows for, right? Or you have a travel partner and you go out west. Like, I think there are solutions to this that are okay-ish, but that will not play in the ego world and the Title IX world and the, hey, why do we have to be second-class citizens world that has changed in recent years, because they were second-class citizens for years, and it's changed a little bit better now, and they're getting more, Penn State, Pat Kraft, we're going to invest in our programs, we're going to do whatever. This is the exact opposite of that, unless you're willing to really spend to send them there, right? So there's going to be a lot of interesting conversations there and challenges for those sports going forward because of this, right? Because the decision wasn't made about them, not at all.
Yeah.
But the football money supports them. So that's
Sure.
the challenge, right? Like, you're going to smile and take the money or bitch, right? So,
But I don't know. Like, I feel like we're gonna hit a point where, like, I guess, like, we have to stop looking at athletic departments as athletic departments of largely nonprofit universities or state universities and start looking at them as universities that really have this side business, I guess, would be the best way of, and maybe that's, I just worry about that because I think you're going to lose. I think you're going to, what I'm picturing, Penn State will now play essentially, if we count the 4 schools, the 4 schools out west, we count Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan, they will play probably at least 2 of those at home per season now, maybe give or take. Now we're driving up ticket prices, and like fans are what make the college experience the college experience, and we're driving them out. And to me, I just like, that is why I watch college football, why I'm so engaged in college football, is because I feel a part of it. And the second that we start to go to diet NFL or NFL junior, we're going to lose that. And so,
wow, who do you
I
sound
just-
like all of a sudden?
shut up.
I got
God.
my pro team. I don't need it. Well, and if it weren't a business, right? I mean, we just talked to 2 public address announcers that they've hired to make their product better. We've talked about them selling beer to make their product more profitable. It has been a product to the folks at Penn State and other places. Penn State may be shorter than some other places, but the good places, it's been a product for the past decade if they've been doing it right. Maybe 5 years for a lot of places, right?
Right.
So that train's already left. They're already viewing themselves as that because they're hiring commissioners who are TV executives. They're hiring ADs who with sports management backgrounds. This isn't roll out the football or roll out the basketball and play just because we're rooting for the laundry anymore. And I think it's hypocritical of those folks, especially. I don't think it's hypocritical of fans that complain, but I think it's hypocritical of the folks who are part of the sports industrial complex to then complain that, oh, our student athletes are going to have to travel. Well, stop up in the ante. Stop trying to do whatever. I mean, this is self-imposed, and I have very little empathy for them.
That's 100%. I agree with that one 100%. And I think we are only headed closer to a union forming of student athletes. I think it's going to happen. Maybe not within the next 5 years, but I think in a decade, I think you're going to have a union, because you're going to have to. You can't strap, women's field hockey players and send them across the country. Well, every weekend now, because that's essentially what some of those schools out west are going to do. If the news that we were joking about before, but there is a little bit of news related to Cal and Stanford, they might be joining the ACC, which makes no sense given that the ACC is the Atlantic Coastal Conference. But we'll get to that argument another day. But those are at least Stanford is the number 1 athletic department in the country in terms of the Olympians that they produce. UCLA is up there in the number of Olympians that they produce. USC is up there. and you're going to start schlepping them commercial all the way over to insert Miami or insert Clemson, South Carolina. Like it's just their athletes are going to have to start sticking up for their rights, and it's coming. It's coming.
Right. And if they do it, there's a couple possible outcomes. Football becomes separate, right?
I think that's the way to go.
And then you just do the rest of the athletic stuff, or it's the model of, hey, there's going to be 1 week, there's going to be 4 weekends. We're going to compete this month. Every month we're going to compete. One weekend's going to be in Oregon. One weekend's going to be in Nebraska. One weekend's going to be in Happy Valley. One weekend's going to be in Maryland, right? And you just, everybody goes there and you get in this, and the student athletes, players, depending on the sport, because I think football are players. I'm not going to go student athlete with football players anymore, have done this in high school summer leagues, AAU stuff, travel field hockey. They've done this. They've gone and played tournaments in multiple places and multiple games over the same weekend. So it's not a different model for the sport. It's a different model for college athletics. So they'll either do that, or they'll find a way to raise more money in the sports industrial complex to make it possible for them to travel. And again, with Zoom anymore and classes that are remote, I don't know that the missed class time has to be such a big issue, because we've solved that the past couple of years. I mean, I know we're going back the other way now, but I don't think that's a huge thing. It's going to be fun to watch, though. I mean, see how it plays out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not excited. I'm not excited. I'm really not.
The athletes have to stand up for their rights? Would you stand up for the fans' rights and not go to Oregon on the first trip?
Shut up. I don't like that question.
Sorry.
No, but all right. What I am interested in is I've got a couple for look. I am of the weird 1% that literally spends all of their time and figuring out how they could get all of their money to cover the cost to go to football games in the fall, right? And then I've got a couple friends that are probably maybe 2 to 3 tiers lower that they will go to Maryland and then they will say, okay, let me pick one other game that I'm going to go to, whether it's this season, Ohio State, Michigan State. They'll pick a game or two. I think you're going to see less people at least, especially the second time around, you're going to see less people of that pool of people going to Seattle or going to Oregon. I will say I am excited to go to Seattle. Like I've not been to Seattle yet, and I am excited to see Portland / Eugene, just because I've heard it's beautiful. But I don't know. It's not
like hopping in the car and driving to Pitt every other year or driving to West Virginia.
Right,
going
exactly.
No, there'll be less people the second time, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
or maybe the third time, because the second time people will get tickets that didn't get them the first time.
Yeah, well, I think that's the other thing. I've had an issue with Adam Bittner of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and I had a conversation on Twitter about this. But
conversation?
Yeah, it's a conversation. Every conversation with Biddy is a conversation.
Okay.
He brought up the regional rivalries thing. That thing has really annoyed me about all of this. It was like, I think the Washington AD was like, yeah, we stay committed to keeping the Wazoo, the Apple Cup going. And then same thing with the Civil War in Oregon. No, you're not like that. You made this move because you don't want to play those rivalries. You want to go play and get in the bigger spotlight, and those games are going to give you a bigger spotlight. And
if they keep playing those games, I'd be tempted to go to one of those games as opposed to a UMass homecoming game at Penn State, just to watch it.
It is funny. It's funny you say that, because we've been discussing this. So we are Anna's aunt and uncle live in Oviedo, Florida. They are UCF season ticket holders. Their whole family is UCF season ticket holders, and we have actually joked around about that. But there's a game. A lot of them went to JMU, and so JMU is going to play UCF in the future. We might go to that game in a few years, because you do want to go see other things. But I don't know. For me, average fan that's going to watch it on TV, I'm still going to tune into Texas versus insert other SEC team over the Apple Cup or whatever it may be, just because, well, unless for whatever reason Washington State is the number 1, 2 top 10
I know
team.
it goes back to the first thing we talked about. I mean, Pac-12 schools, whether it's the East Coast bias or lack of attention, right? Those rivalries just haven't meant as much to the mainstream media. I mean, Wazoo's known most in college football for the flag on game day.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, no shot at them. Sorry, that was a shot at them. But I mean, that's what most college football fans know them more about that and Ben Ryan Leaf than anything else about Washington State.
I was going to sit here and say, like, how many Cal players can I name? But I can name 2, Marshawn Lynch and Aaron Rodgers. But after that, I can't name that many.
And that's in your era. And in my era, more people know Cal for the band game.
Right.
I mean,
Sorry, Cal. Hey,
Sorry.
but you know what?
Welcome to the
Berkeley.
ACC.
Good degree at Berkeley. So go get your good degree. All right. Anything else you want to pummel?
No, I'm done. I've reached the limit. I'm beating up on people. I'm good.
All right. This week's old guy, young guy. You're unprepared for this because we forgot that you discussed this.
No, we didn't even talk about. Oh God.
No, you're good. It's no quiz. You're good. I want to ask you. I bought. Well, it was more gifted something, but I got something. I got the Penn State Nikes, and I want to know Steve's opinion of the Penn State Nikes. No.
Would I buy them? Opinion? No, because you were gifted them, so they're great.
Okay.
I think it's a great.
I
think it's a great way to show your school spirit.
Okay, that was the most canned answer that we've ever gotten on this podcast.
Well, I'm not a shoe guy, as you would note by lawn mowing shoes and everything else. So yes, will you wear them with pride?
Yeah, they're
all that
incredibly
matters.
comfortable shoes.
Well, then there you go.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like I feel like Steve would be like, no, they're ugly, or no, that's weird. It's kind of like wearing a jersey. That's what I was looking for, but apparently that's not Steve. So
no, and I it's probably you can still wear a jersey. I'm too old to wear a jersey. I had a Zach Mills jersey when he was the thing for a hot second there, and that's probably my last Penn State jersey.
I don't know. I might stop wearing a jersey. It might be
wow. That's old.
Like, all right, I'm going to turn 30 in January. So
you can get through this season yet.
Okay. When did you stop wearing a jersey? Like 35? Like when you had kids?
How long ago was Zach Mills?
2001, 2. So that was 22 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Glad we had that conversation. All right. Glad we had this conversation. As always, it was the highlight of my week. Probably going to put something out on the blog later this week about football. Actually, yes, I am going to put something out on the blog about football. I'm going to we're going to do offense this week. Well, I'm going to do offense this week. I'm just winging it, not telling Steve this plans. I'm going to write about offense. The next week, I'm going to write about defense, and then I'm going to write about the coaching decision. And then you'll get our season preview, my season preview. I don't know what Steve's got planned. And then when you'll get the game preview the week of the game.
This is really like being married. Because I find out about shit when we start talking like this in front of people.
Sorry.
Like this is the same way. Like I didn't tell Steve about this. And the running joke within our home life is I'll find out stuff when Susan tells people over dinner or we're with them. Hey, we're going to do this. Hey, I'm like, oh, really?
Steve,
we are? Get the hell out of here.
You have the content calendar, number 1. Number 2, it's an open door policy on our blog with you and me. It's all right. I'm
good for like one thing a month. The seats thing,
you're good. And you know what? Yeah. It's great. It's great. So we've got that coming. I think we might have a newsletter. Maybe I don't know. Maybe next week. Are you okay with next week?
Actually, I'll have to add the content. Yeah, maybe next week because I've got some exclusive stuff on broadcast stuff, NBC stuff that nobody else probably has. So we have that. There we go.
Stamsel.
Dropping names.
Okay, and then there might be a little announcement next week. That's all I'm going to say. And then we've got the YouTube page somewhere in this general vicinity. There's a subscribe button. Please hit that. If you are listening in podcast form, please thumbs up 5 stars. We really appreciate that. Steve has an email. It is
Steve@stuffsummersays.com. I was checking my NBC notes. Sorry. Okay. You got me started.
I have an email. It's Darian@stuffsummersays.com. The website is stuffsummersays.com. We've got a newsletter. You can sign up for that. We've got
social media handles.
Those are important. My Twitter handle is @StuffSummerSays. Steve says
@SteveSamsel.
Other than that, you're another day closer to college football season. I'm excited.
Me too. Can't wait.
Okay. Bye.